Now that you've had a chance to see how the new options are implemented in 2014 for the CrowdFX, let's dig a little bit deeper and figure out how we can start to customize some of this stuff. So the best place to start, of course, is to use the simulation menu and inspect the crowd simulation tree. For this, I am going to start off by working with the animation blending tree to define some new states that I wish to use on my actors. So what I've done beforehand is I've gone in and I've got all of the animation sources for all 11 of these characters, and they have a range of actions from falling down and dying to running turned away, talking on cell phones, hand gestures, and in the case of the soldiers, running with their guns, walking with their guns, throwing grenades, and standing and shooting. So if we have a look at the animation sources core, you can see that it's quite large here. Each one of these green nodes, of course, represents a character, and on each one of these inputs, we have all of the relevant actions for a particular character. So you can see for the Marine character, we have a character standing and shooting, walking, aiming down the sights, running and aiming down the sights, standing on guard, and throwing a grenade. And for the pedestrian characters, we have something similar. Let's just open up this Get Data node. Again, talking normally, walking, running, arms folded across his chest, talking on a cell phone, blown back, headshot, and arms folded again in this case. So that's the first part of it. Those are automatically loaded in. Those actions are loaded in, but they're actually not being used. To use them, we need to go into the animation blending tree and update our animation definitions. Now, when I first open this up, you can see that they're all built for me. I used the Actor Proxies menu, the Inspect Actor Proxies menu. You can just have a look at this here. We've got all of our characters, and if I wanted to, let's say, add more actions for a given characters, let's take, I don't know, Eric for example. Let's inspect his animations, and again, you can see all of the actions that I've brought into CrowdFX and define them as animation states. So the problem here is that they've likely mislabeled, or CrowdFX has likely mislabeled some of the states, some of the idling states that I wish to use. So let me go in and adjust some of these. So in my first animation state here, you can see that I'm using the Marine model, and I've gone in here and I've got an idle state. And this idle state is using his stand and shoot action. So let's actually rename this, and let's call this idle state stand shoot. So that it references the stand and shoot action. Now, of course, what I can do here is copy and paste them and make some changes. So if I look at his move animation state, here you can see that his move state is a mixture of walking and running while aiming down the sights. Whereas if I look here in the next animation state, I'm again defining the Eric model, his animation idle state, and which action source to reference. So it's a good idea, with idle states at least, in this current incarnation, to give the state name a similar name to the idle that you're working with. So basically each idle action should have its own state. So if I call this idle state talking normal, so we'll call it idle state talking. And I'll start copying and pasting these. So copy paste. So I'll define another animation state for the soldier. So we've got a few idles for him here. Here's an idle on guard state. So we'll call this idle state on guard. So that state references this particular action source. And again, it's set to loop. So things like death states, you'd only want to play once. And I'll just go through and define all of the animation idle states for the soldier as an example. So again, I'm referencing the Marine actor proxy, not the Eliza character. And I'm going in, and again, I'll take a third idle state. So I have an idle state where he's throwing a grenade. So we'll call that idle state throw grenade. Okay, so I'll do that. And I'll also come in and define, let's see here. So I've already got his two movement states defined, walking and running, and that's fine for that particular character. Now the easiest way, because if you look here, they're all plugged into one gigantic execute node, and all this graph can get a little bit confusing after a while. So what I usually like to do would be to just use an execute node, and I'll execute the different idle states for this character. So I might need to do a little bit of rearranging here. So I'll take that state, and I'll also take this state as well. I'll plug that in here. Okay. There's a lot of stuff going on in that scene, so it's a little bit slow. So if I just comment that, this should be the marine idle animation states. Okay, I'll also put the define move state into a separate execute node as well. So I'll bring that in, and we'll take this and plug it here, and we'll call that the marine move animation states. Okay, so that defines all of the actions for my marine character that I want to bring into CrowdFX. So I'll just cobble these guys together. I'll put one here and put one there. So this would be the marine states. Alright, so I'll do one more character here just so you can see how varied it can get. I know that these two states here reference my first Eric character. So this is the Eric model with the jeans and the leather jacket. These are his idle states. And this is his move state. So let's update those. It's his idle states I'm mostly interested in. So let's copy paste. And you can see that in this case, I've got a couple of states for him being kind of blown back here, death states. So let's use death blown back. So I'll call that idle death blown back state. That's not how you spell blown. And because this is a death state, unless my character has the ability to come back to life, I should only play this state once when I enter this state. Okay, so that's good there. Let's copy and paste again. And let's reference the headshot. So again, if I look into the available actions, I have a headshot preset, death by a headshot. So we'll call this idle death headshot state. And again, that should only play once. So those are his two death states, and I'll also copy paste that twice. Make sure I take into account his normal idle states. He's talking on his cell phone and his gesturing around. So let's see, there's his idle state talking, so that's already set up. There's the headshot, blown back. So let's say this one is our talking state. We'll use this one as our, this is idle state on phone. And finally, and that should be set to loop. Looks good. We're using the Eric model with genes. And finally, this one here, let's reference the arms folded. So this would be idle state arm folded. And we'll call it look around. Okay, so you can see that this process would just be repeated for the rest of the characters, however many characters you have. Once again, I'm going to use these various executes to help organize my animation states. So I'll plug that one in, and I'll plug this one in. And so these are my idle states. And we'll call that Eric with genes. And no, this isn't Utivierge or Termin. We'll plug these in. These are our death states. And finally, we've got his move animation state as well. So with his move animation state, I've also got, actually in this case I don't have him turned around. Let's just leave the move states at that. So I will just unplug this guy. Bring in another execute branch. And we'll call this Eric with genes move state. We'll pull all those together into a single execute. Here, here, and here. And we'll call this execute node the Eric with genes states. Eric with genes animation states. Okay, so that's how you would begin to define the animation states per character or per actor. So it will take a little while to set up, so I'm going to go through off video here and set the rest of my characters up. And when I come back, let's look at how we can make a few alterations to these defined animation states, whether move or idle. Of course, what I would need to do is execute these guys back. So let's put the Marine first. And then let's put Eric with genes second. And just move them over like so. Okay, so that's how animation states can be set up. They're very easy to set up, and of course they allow you to bring in any kind of animation that you can think of, not only relegated to bipeds. So this is a new node as part of the animation blending tree as part of Softimage 2014.